Hello, good morning, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to have you join us once again. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
Well, it is a beautiful Thursday morning right here in the nation's capital, and I think the fuel issue is still...
I think, like somebody advised, I had zeroed my mind that we may live with this for the whole of 2022, maybe until the issues that they keep referring to disappear from the scene, maybe until the Russia crisis or invasion comes to an end, and maybe the refineries come on stream then. Until then, I don't think there is any respite.
That sounds like a long way down the line.
Indeed, a long wait.
Well, we do hope that things get better as quickly as possible. So let's go straight to the headlines this morning. 2023 presidency, Fayose dumps Atiku, says power must shift to south.
Organ harvesting, FG hires lawyers to defend Ekweremadu.
And Abuja Kaduna train victim shot in captivity, says negotiator.
And now the details. Former Governor Ayodele Fayose of Ekiti State has demanded the power shift to the south, saying it would be unfair for a northerner to step into office after President Muhammadu Buhari's 8 years. Fayose, an ally of Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, is among those who contested the presidential ticket of the opposition party, won by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. After the primaries, the PDP had called on all its stakeholders to close rank and work towards wresting power from the ruling All Progressive Congress. However, the PDP started experiencing post-primary crisis after Atiku chose Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State as his running mate. Hours before Fayose's tweet, Governor Samuel Otom of Benue State had said Wike would have been a better running mate to Okowa.
And the federal government has engaged some lawyers to defend Ike Ekweremadu, former Deputy Senate President, and his wife, Beatrice. The Senate President Ahmed Lawan disclosed this after a closed-door session of the chamber on Wednesday, adding that a delegation of the chamber would on July 1 visit the Ekweremadus in London. According to Lawan, the visit will be undertaken by the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, chaired by Senator Adamu Bulkachua. He disclosed that the Senate will engage the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Nigerian High Commission in London on the matter. They were last week arrested and arraigned at Uxbridge Magistrate Court in London over allegations of organ harvesting.
Moving on, one of the passengers of the Kaduna-bound train that was attacked by terrorists in March has been shot in captivity. According to Tukur Mamu, the publisher who has been negotiating with the terrorists, the victim, identified as Mohammed Al-Amin, is currently in critical condition. Mamu, who facilitated the release of 11 of the passengers, confirmed the development to Daily Trust. He said the government must be prepared to take full responsibility if they fail to act on time.
And that's it for the news headlines. We'll take a couple of reports now. The Nigerian Senate on Wednesday screened and confirmed 7 ministerial nominees sent to it by President Muhammadu Buhari. Trust TV Shafiu Suleiman reports that 5 of the nominees were scrutinized by the upper legislative chamber, while 2 others who are former lawmakers were told to take a bow and go, in line with the age-long practice of according them such concessions. The report.
President Muhammadu Buhari had, in line with Section 47, subsection 2 of the 1999 Constitution, sent a letter to the Senate containing the names of Iko Eri Ikechukwu Abia, Umana Okon Umana Akwa Ibom, Ekuma Nkama Joseph Nkama Ibonyi, Goodluck Nana Opia Imo, Omar Ibrahim Eliakub Kano, Ademola Adeole Adegoroe Ondo, and Udom Ude from Rivers as ministerial nominees to fill existing vacant positions in his cabinet.
Senator Roger Okrocha meant well. I think that he wanted to also add his voice to the support of my nomination. Seriously speaking, I've had a series of telephone conversations with him before today, and there is no indication that he was going to oppose my nomination.
That would key into the agenda of this government and to ensure that on day one, God willing, if confirmed by the Senate, we hit the ground running, delivering on services to the Nigerian people, to actualize the Nigerian dream.
The Senate, as part of its oversight function, subjects the nominees to a routine scrutiny to determine their suitability in terms of competence and character. The Rechem asked ministers on presidential expedition at the last APC primary, amongst others. 7 presidential nominees for the ministerial appointments into the cabinet of President Muhammadu Buhari just went through, the rigors of explaining themselves or unveiling themselves to the National Assembly and to Nigerians with regards to the portfolios that they are going to be given by the present administration. It is a routine exercise by the Senate to interrogate and, of course, get certain clarifications and explanations from nominees like this. 5 of them had to go through the rigors of answering questions and, of course, clarifying issues to the Senate, while 2 happened to be ex-lawmakers, and they had the privilege of taking the bow and go, as it is synonymous with the National Assembly when it comes to screening exercise. From the National Assembly here in Abuja, Nigeria's capital, Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News.
With the National Assembly, the House of Representatives on Wednesday set up 2 ad hoc committees to address noticeable lapses in government operations. The committee were inaugurated during plenary. The report.
One of the committees is to investigate the petroleum product subsidy regime from 2017 to 2021 and report back to the House within 8 weeks for further legislative action. The resolution of the House followed a motion on the need to investigate the petroleum product subsidy regime in Nigeria from 2017 to 2021, brought by Honorable Sergius Ose Ogun from Edo State. The House also inaugurated an ad hoc committee to investigate duplication of functions by most government ministries, departments, and agencies. The move, according to the Speaker, Femi Gbajabiamila, is to reduce the cost of running the government and promote efficiency. The bill to investigate the lacuna in government was introduced to the floor at plenary by the Chief Whip of the House, Muhammad Mungunu, on 2nd of March 2022. The aim is to address issues of duplication of functions of most of the MDAs and to make them more effective and functional. The Speaker, while inaugurating the committee, assured that the idea was not to witch hunt, but rather to improve service delivery of the MDAs.
This committee is expected to come up with solutions to the apparent continuous conflict of functions and avoidable bickering among the established ministries, departments, and agencies, resulting in ineffectiveness, inefficiency, and redundancy in the government workforce. The committee is therefore expected to engage relevant stakeholders and members of the public with a view to resolving the areas of conflict among the MDAs, which may require amending some laws and/or outright repeal.
His position was supported by the chairman of the ad hoc committee, who highlighted some of the issues that affect the optimal performance of most government agencies.
I would like to appeal to the various ministries, departments, and agencies of the federal government, as well as the general public, for your maximum cooperation and resourceful contribution towards more efficient, goal-driven, and productive government.
Sada Soli from Katsina gave a general overview of the proposed bill and how it will not only cut cost of governance, but also address clash of interests and interagency rivalry, which negates the principle of good governance.
So we observed all these challenges in these 1,484 MDAs, and we thought there is need to address this problem.
Heads of MDAs promised to cooperate with the committee by submitting memoranda to aid its work.
In addition to harmonizing what is in existence now, there should be a standing committee in the National Assembly that makes sure that any bill that comes before the National Assembly goes through scrutiny to make sure that that new bill does not conflict with any other existing law in the country.
It is hoped that the outcome of the investigation will assist the MDAs to perform efficiently without any encumbrances.
Now, disability rights advocates have called for more conducive and disability-friendly work environments to aid easy access to facilities by people living with disabilities. They made the call during a training on financial management. The report.
Statistics show that people with disabilities are more likely to experience extreme poverty in Nigeria than those without a disability. It was also revealed that structures have become more inaccessible to persons living with disabilities as they are not considered during construction or renovation of such facilities, with just a few public and private establishments considering the PLWD's accessibility. It is in light of these that the Network of Disabled Women with Support from Disability Rights Fund organized a training on financial management, NGO governance and organization safeguarding for PLWDs.
The training is going to be an eye-opener for participants, and then hopefully these participants, we are believing that at the end of the training, participants would also go back with the latest idea in terms of safeguarding policies, safeguarding practices for persons with disability, and also make sure that their institutions or their organizations pick up these ideas that have been shared today and then build upon it, and then even go out and campaign with such ideas that will be shared here.
The organizers say achieving increased awareness will promote advancement and address challenges.
We try to do this by building up this capacity of communication, breaking the barriers of communications, like using the simple language.
Ibe Morin, a participant at the training who works at a public establishment, narrates her ordeal occasioned by the lack of access to facilities for PLWDs and called for a change to reduce the challenges PLWDs face daily.
It's been challenging because I remember even going to school, it's the presence of a person with disability that creates the opportunity to make facilities that pertain accessibility. Most workplaces you go to, you be carried, it's a little bit embarrassing that you start looking for help, people to assist you, go in. Just in few places that you go to and you find, a good access.
The aim of the training is to equip beneficiaries with basic knowledge in financial management and organizational safety to enable them become independent. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
There you go. There seems to be excitement in the air for intending pilgrims, especially first-timers from Kaduna State who are participating in this year's Hajj exercise. With 1,589 pilgrims from the state, 2,491 expected pilgrims and had been airlifted to Medina in Saudi Arabia. The fourth batch of the pilgrims have expressed satisfaction with the coordination of Hajj activities in the state amidst excitement in participating in the exercise. The report.
These intending pilgrims from Kaduna State are part of the fourth batch of the pilgrims to be airlifted from the Kaduna International Airport to Medina in Saudi Arabia for the 2022 Hajj exercise. With this year's lifting of suspension in Hajj activities after 2 years of global lockdown as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, some of the pilgrims, especially first-timers, could not hide their excitement, having waited 2 years to participate in the important spiritual activity.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. It's not by our power, it's not by our grace. Some people are here, they want to witness it, but they could not witness it. Maybe death or one or two things. So we thank God for giving us the life, the ability to witness today. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should accept our prayer. Being the first timer, we pray that if we go, it should not be our last time. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to show you. So the excitement is beyond what I can express.
It is an exciting opportunity for even old-timers who were elated at the chance of returning to the Holy Land after 2 years.
One will feel highly elated, excited, and you will feel on top of the world since the Hajj has been suspended for 2020 and 2021 due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, by Allah's will, it has been restored. So every single Muslim, whether you are going or not, you will feel excited. Talk more of those of us that have the opportunity of going. Sincerely speaking, I'm highly excited and elated to visit the Holy Land at this very time this year after the suspension of these 2 preceding years.
For a hitch-free Hajj exercise and to ensure all pilgrims perform optimally and in good health, the Kaduna State Medical Team has assured of adequate healthcare delivery for all pilgrims in the Holy Land.
In Saudi too, we know that we are communicating with people over there. They have able people over there, and we go and join them. And all the drugs, basic drugs required by the pilgrims will actually be available, and we're going to treat them as appropriate as we should. And every pilgrim that need any medical care, either in the clinic or in his hostel, there are measures established to give that individual optimal care that he could get anywhere around the world.
Lami Sadiq for Trust TV News, Kaduna.
And that's it for the headlines and reports at this moment. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll delve into the newspaper review. Stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television, and it is that segment again where we bring you the major stories that have made the headlines of the national newspapers this morning. And as usual, we will start with the Daily Trust. What a fitting way to begin this day in the face of the new rebranded name marks of the Daily Trust titles. I'm sure for those of you who will be getting your copies today, you'll be served with something completely refreshing. Still the same quality journalism, if not better, but now with improved outlook, something that should refresh your mind when you pick up the papers this morning. And the major headlines on the Daily Trust this morning reads, promotion of Osinbajo's Aisha Buhari's ADC raises dust. With the riders, officers promoted 2 steps ahead of contemporaries. Lopsided promotion, killing discipline, retired CP. Right former complaint, IGP tell aggrieved officers. You find this and many more on page 5 of the Daily Trust this morning. And of course, you have a graphic representation of the rebranded Daily Trust titles from the Daily Trust dailies to the Saturdays, Sundays, and of course, our vernacular servants weekly, which is known as Armenia. You should look out for this new brands from our newspaper, from your regular newspaper vendors. And right beneath that, we have the rider. Petrol scarcity. Ipman begins strike in Abuja, orders over 50 billion naira claim. Kaduna to recruit 10,000 teachers after sacking 2,357. That story is on page 8 and has been making has been generating a lot of dust lately. I'm sure the Kaduna State government has its hands full with complaints and agitations from the various labor movements. 2,550 pilgrims may miss Hajj. Operators cry out. That story is on page 5. And Senate confirms Buhari's ministerial nominees. Those are the stories on the editor's pick. And right beneath the nameplate, the new nameplate if you like, Reps probe 5-year fuel subsidy, alleged 2.9 trillion naira diversion. You find that story on page 23. VP slot, Ayu's fate hanging as crisis over Okowa selection worsens. That story is on page 14. Organ harvesting, FG hires lawyers for Ekweremadu as Senate send delegation to the UK. You find that story on page 4. This particular headline reminds me of the popular cliché that all humans are equal, but some humans are more equal
than others.
than the others. I hope someday Ordinary Nigerians will be in a mess, and the federal government will find it expedient to raise a committee such as the Senate committee to show up there and intervene on their behalf. What a way to go for a countryman. It just should be extended to me and every other person. These are the major stories on the covers of the Daily Trust this morning.
All right, the next newspaper we're looking at this morning is the Punch newspaper, and it carries this major headline. It says, running mate, Wike Okowa camps clash as autumn fire share threaten Atiku's bid. That is the major headline, and it comes with these riders. Picking Okowa undemocratic. Only God can tell me to support Atiku, says Autumn. Atiku should reach out to Wike, Rivers PDP, and no going back on Okowa, says Aid. Fayose demands Southern presidency, says PDP's constitution backs power rotation. Further down the page, Lagos unveils digitized container classrooms, rewards teachers. And a couple of headlines here. 10 die in Ogun Delta road crashes, said FRSC, and blames speeding. Redeemer School responds to my son's death. It was wicked, mother of drowned pupil. That story is on page 3. Court stops Oyo Deputy Governor's impeachment adjourned till July 5. That story can be found on page 8 of the Punch newspaper. At the bottom of the page there, negotiator says abducted train passenger shot. Families beg reps. And popular U.S. musician R. Kelly bags 30 years for sex trafficking. Find that story on page 44. Grid collapse, terrorists sabotaging rehabilitation efforts, says the federal government. When you move further up the page above the nameplate, FAAC allocation declined by 30%. States' finances may worsen. That story can be found on page 29. Minister-designate plans to end ASU strike. Senate confirms nominees. Reps probe petroleum subsidy payments, allege 10 billion naira revenue loss. And at the very top of the page there, Nigeria lost 500.6 billion naira crude oil in 5 months. That is according to an investigation. And Ekweremadu ensure justice prevails, Senate tells federal government. And lawmaker kicks as water bill resurfaces at House of Representatives. For details, that's on page 13 of the Punch newspaper. And these are the major headlines on the front page of the Punch newspaper this morning.
And now moving on to This Day newspaper. The major headline for This Day newspaper today reads, Autumn undecided about support for Atiku once Wike placated. 6 meeting between PDP candidate and Rivers governor. Real reasons Wike lost out on VP nominations. Fayose explains why Wike won't support former vice president's ambition. You have pictures there of the central bank governor and other dignitaries at the African Central Bank Governors Round Table. And right above the name marks there, we have CBN set January 2023 deadline for financial institutions to tighten nose on cybercrime. And below that, you have the belt, R. Kelly, sentenced to 30 years in prison for sex trafficking charges. I mean, this guy has been in problem for just nearly forever. Think of how very inspirational his music has been, talking about people who are depressed, to finding love and all of that, and then ending up in this kind of quagmire. It's such a pity that such bundle of talent will be spending the next 2-3 decades of his vital, natural life behind the walls. And directly below that, you have the story. FG blames terrorists for perennial nationwide power outage. Interesting. This is taking a different dimension, and you find that on page 8. Irabo, Nigeria's securities problem requires political solution, says with citizens working alongside state agencies, 2023 election will be peaceful. You'll find these and many more when you get your copy of This Day's newspaper today.
Well, the next newspaper we're looking at is The Guardian newspaper this morning, which carries this major headline, Rumpus in PDP over calls for Ayu's removal and Wike's shabby treatment. It comes with these riders here. I remain PDP's national chairman, Ayu insists. PDP stakeholders disagree on calls for Ayu's resignation. And if governors absent from Osun Campaign Council's election, 11 governors, absent from Osun Campaign Council inauguration. Fayose tacitly declares support for Southern President, and Atiku insulted Wike by sending emissaries, says Autumn. Lamido PDP made Wike must save him from his anger. And that's the major story on the front page of The Guardian. Right below the nameplates there, the Senate state healthcare budgets dip from 11 to 4.65%. Women worries over growing population of street children in Cross River. That story can be found on page 8. And civilian JTF leader, resident, 7 terrorists killed in gun duel. That story is on page 30. Right at the bottom of the page there, Nigeria records staggering upsurge in mass killings, violations against kids in conflict, and drama as Okorocha dares Lawan at plenary. Well, these are the major stories on the front page of The Guardian newspaper this morning.
Some part also there from the Green Chambers, but we move on straight to the Nation's newspaper and its offerings this morning. And the major headline on the Nation newspaper this morning reads, ahead of 2023 presidential poll, Fayose Autumn rattles PDP. Sometimes it will be good to question the validity and the fan base of these governors, former governors who seem to be holding the party by the jugular. And the riders there to the story, ex-Ekiti governor insists power must shift. Benue governor faults Atiku on Wike. Poor attendance at Osun Campaign Council in his initiation. And below that, you find the story how COVID-19 had driven digital banking. This is according to the World Bank. And on top of the nameplates there, you find why importers are abandoning Nigerian ports by operators. VIN, evaluation to be blamed. Kaduna train attack, victims shot in captivity. And court hails Oyo's deputy governor planned sack. You also have riders below, EU full disclosure request on cargoes from Nigeria takes off next year. These are the major stories on the front page of the Nation newspaper.
Next, we'll take a look at the Blueprint newspaper, which carries this major headline, Hajj 2022, how NACON will complete Pilgrims Airlift ahead of July 3rd deadline. And it comes with these riders, flight frequency increased, more airlines deployed. Commission airlift 20,743. Adamawa, Lagos, Ogun, Osun, Nasarawa, Yobe, 4 others concluded. 174 cases of tour operators' payments cleared, 35 delayed, traced to bank, and non-clearance of airports, poor turnout of pilgrims, others account for delay. 287 Hajj Savings Scheme Kanu pilgrims cases to be treated on first-come, first-served basis. These are the riders supporting the major headline on the front page of the Blueprint. Talking about security, terrorists killed 2, kidnapped medical doctor, 15 others in Kaduna. That story can be found on page 7. Organ harvesting, Senate delegation heads to London on Friday. And going down to the bottom of the page, FBN Holdings sustaining profitability in 2021 financial year. Just below the nameplate there, PDP in disarray, threat to remove national chairman Ayu thickens. And it comes with these riders. He remains our chair, says the party, and I'll support Atiku only if God asks me to, says Autumn. 11 governors boycott Osun Goba campaign inauguration. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper this morning.
We will take a very short breather. When we return, our analyst will be ready with us in the studio to serve you all the major details. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a person look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, it's Daybreak on Trust Television, and we are now joined in the studio by our regular analyst and a friend of the house, if not a member of the house, talking about the general editor of the rebranded Daily Trust. And I'm talking about no other than Malam Hamza Idris. It's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
And let me congratulate you for this rebranding. I'm sure A lot of work went into it, from the concept to the design to the approval to seeking opinions, and now we have this refreshed Daily Trust title now in the serving in the market. How do you feel about this to start with?
Highly refreshed. Yes, it is a new dawn for the paper. 24 years after, the owners and those of us working here, and then even our readers, well-wishers, acquaintances, felt that the company, has evolved over years. It started as just a weekly paper. Now, apart from the multiple stables that we have, Saturday, Sunday, the Teen Trust, and many others, Kilimanjaro, and then we also, took a serious dive into the digital space. So, without being modest, I don't think if there is any newspaper that is, you find it in one-stop shop as Daily Trust, because in one building you have the newspaper, you have the podcast, which is now radio, you have the television, and then the digital. So we have almost conquered everything in the cyber space, and I think this is the bottom line. So beyond what you see, on the surface, you can see the logo here. This is World, and then this is like a tabloid or computer. It shows that we are transiting from analog to a serious digital media house. And I'm sure Nigerians and readers and viewers across the globe know that this is the true picture of the Media Trust family. So it's a welcome development. It's a serious progress for journalism, and it's a serious progress for journalism in Nigeria.
Interesting how journalism in Nigeria is catching up with development across the world. Now you work for a platform that is multi-channel, and that transforms you as a person also from being just either a TV person or a newspaper person to now a full-fledged multimedia journalist. Once again, congratulations. Having said that and having done that bit of advertisement to our colleagues back home, just to make sure that you understand that it's not a different paper or is a counterfeit in the making, is the original one served refreshed, but with the same in-depth journalism that you have always gotten in the last 24 years. Moving on to the major story from the stables of the Daily Trust would be the issue surrounding the commotion around the promotion of those who seem to have been lucky to have been picked as ADCs to VIPs in Nigeria. We know these stories have always been there. Every time you get these people, they get triple, multiple, quadruple promotions for just merely carrying the bags of political appointees. What do you make of this story?
Yes, as you rightly said, it's not new, but it's a serious reminder because as media organization, we are always there for people to ventilate their anger, to ventilate their grievances. Some officers within the ranks felt cheated. They felt that they have not been treated fairly. When you look at the two people we use here, they are the ADCs of the vice president and then the wife of the president. They were recently promoted to the rank of assistant commissioner of police from chief superintendent of police. Now, they are contemporaries. They joined the service, the police force, 20 years ago. Then most of those who spoke to us, they are their colleagues. They say, look, it's not that we are envious of them, but what are the parameters used in giving them an edge over ours? It's simply because they are privileged to be behind the VIPs. Is that enough? And they said, beyond that, These two gentlemen joined the force with secondary school certificate as cadet inspectors, while some of their colleagues who are now far behind them joined with, you know, a degree certificate as assistant superintendent of police. And then if you look at it, it takes many years and you have to pass through many ranks to attain the position of ASP. But they too passed through those processes, but their promotions were accelerated. And if you look at the regimented life of security forces, even if you were enrolled same day, but you took the first number and then I took the second number, you are my senior. Now, not to talk of somebody now being 2 ranks or 1 rank ahead of you, while you know that you were enrolled the same time and most likely you also have a higher qualification compared to that person. So they said this is really breeding, you know, disgruntled elements. And then it also erodes discipline in the system, and then it also demoralizes those inside, because they said, okay, some people are being treated far and above others. Some of them also cited example with the discipline in the military. You rarely see this happening. Of course, they do promotion. I remember when I was in Borno, you remember the late Colonel Abu Ali, the gallant soldier who reclaimed many communities taken over by Boko Haram. I remember General Buratai, they went there, went to the bush, and then promoted him, put a rank. And there was no discontent anywhere. It was generally applauded. Now, some of the officers who spoke to us said they expect the police to tour along this line, that you should promote people based on exceptional performance. Yes, it's good to promote people who live far above their peers, but just because I am privileged to be behind, a VIP, then you now give me an unsolicited or undeserved promotion. Some said it will also boomerang because they have witnessed things like this. There are some who were promoted, they got this accelerated development, not because of outstanding performance, but simply because they were privileged to be with some prominent people. And then at the end of the day, it is now affecting them. One of the examples we cited in is the person who served as the ADC to former President Goodluck Jonathan. Now, some of his colleagues are now, I think, commissioners or thereabout, while he was up there, I think Deputy Inspector General or something like that. And then his name was mentioned to be Inspector General. Then it became an issue. On what grounds? Is it because he was able to, sanitize certain places or whatever? At the end of the day, he was unable to get it. Yes. So people are saying the right thing should be done so that you will not create disaffection in the security side.
Now, before we move on from this particular story, I just want to get your take on how unhealthy or how will this affect. You talked about it being a demoralizing factor, because I believe if somebody, a police officer right now, is in the jungle fighting for insurgents and bandits and whatnot, and he feels he has not gotten what he's due, and then somebody for standing behind somebody gets a rapid promotion, how demoralizing do you think that will be for that person, and how do you think it will affect generally the fight against insecurity?
You see, we spoke to someone in order to protect their identity. We didn't mention the names, but we have the names. Somebody now left the police a few months ago because of these tendencies, because he felt that he was not being treated fairly. He had no future in the police, and he felt that the best thing is to move on. Now, if you look, anybody who can take such a decision, you know that he must have been demoralized, because you cannot put 20 years of your career somewhere and then abruptly you terminate it yourself out of frustration. As I said earlier, in the military, you know that if you miss promotion, what happens? I think they give you little opportunity. If you are able to catch up, fine. If you are not, you have to be flushed out, because that discipline is very important. And especially in the, if you are a step ahead of somebody, once you meet, you have to now salute. Now, many said, how can I salute my junior? We know that God gives power to whom he pleases, but not this kind of opportunity. You know that this is not the work of God. I'm sorry.
Maybe the God of man, or the man of God.
You see, so that is why in the military, you see, if there is this serious promotion now, all the contemporaries will have to give way.
True.
The military is ready to sacrifice
everybody
in order to maintain what? Discipline. And discipline is very important, especially in the security architecture.
Moving away from that, even though we are still staying, well, we talked about discipline and politics. Now, we are beginning to see some kind of storm in a teacup in the activities of the People's Democracy. We thought that having picked his vice president, everything would have been sorted out by now, and it appears like they had some edge over those with the placeholders and that are still looking for certificates and all of that. But it turned out there is so much brewing on the ground, and that is also threatening to explode, with a staunch member already declaring support for somebody in the opposition in the name of pushing for a Southern presidency, and another one waiting for God. Well, they call him a pastor. Perhaps he needs God's direction, but how much of a problem is this for the opposition party?
It's really huge, and I think it's beyond storm in the teacup. This is a big stone in a big
bull
pot.
In the China shop, perhaps.
And if care is not taken, it will affect the chances of the party. One, the agitation for Southern president. Yes, the smart way the two leading parties, conducted their primaries. The initial expectation was that they will all take their ticket to the south, and then because politics, some said because of the vote bank and some other considerations, they will most likely retain the ticket in the north. But it turns out to be, one of them to the south and then the other one to the north. But in PDP, specifically, many of the governors are really not happy with the presidential flag bearer, because they said he asked them to help him get a running mate. And they said Wike, for some obvious reasons, should be picked. Number one, he was the second during the contest. And then beyond that, he sustained the party for a very long time as an opposition party. A party that led for 16 years and then suddenly found itself in the opposition. The resources became extremely scarce. But he was able to, this was what they said, he was able to now sustain the party. But at the end of the day, he expected to be compensated with that ticket. But from what we gathered, they have serious-minded people also. Many of them said picking Wike is a recipe for chaos. Because he tends to be a domineering fellow. So probably in the first few weeks, they will start having issues in the event they win the election. So they said it's better to get somebody who can really agree that he is second in command as the running mate. And I think that was why Atiku picked the governor of Delta State. But the governors of the party actually, you know, we did a story which they faulted, but at the end of the day, it turned out to be the truth, that there was voting somewhere, and then Wike got it. But at the end of the day, Okoa was. This really angered Wike, and you know his relationship with Otto. You know, I think Wike visited Benue multiple times ahead of the primaries. Yes, the primary. Some were even saying in the event maybe he got the ticket, he wouldn't mind picking. So you can now see the camaraderie there. Autumn saying that he needs inspiration from God, and then Fayoshe saying it's Saudat. So it's a serious rebellion. But maybe they will get it right in the coming days. But you can see in Hausa they said ba aya ban dan kuturu. You know, say shekara arba'in. That you know you can't just press the son of the left until he attains 40 years with his fingers. We were chiding PDP, I mean APC and other parties for having what they call
the placeholders.
You know, if you are looking for new
catchphrases,
yes, in politics, come to Nigeria. So you can see it's not really over for even the leading opposition.
Yeah, so just like Sunday talked about earlier, we all thought that PDP had its house in order. Yes. After the primaries, everything went smoothly. They selected their flag bearer. A vice presidential candidate was selected, and everywhere was quiet for a while, and then this came out of left field for everybody, and it just hit everybody at the same time. So the PDP seems to be in crisis right now. Placeholder parties have their placeholders, which is another crisis on its own. So it seems like nobody has his house in order. How does this translate into anything meaningful for any of these parties come 2023?
You see, brief on PDP, they are, you know, taking the blame to the flag bearer, but we know that it was not actually a unilateral decision. We learned that some key people who are really controlling the party from behind the scene were those who said Wike is uncultured, so don't pick him. And that is why they arrive at where they are now. But you see, the wider implication of what is happening in these political parties is that, you know, they make the electorate angry. Number one, when you look at what the electorate got in the last, how many years now? 16 there, 8 here, around 24, right? What did the electorate get from the same set of people? Because all these actors that you see, very few of them, you know, get to the scene in the last 4 years. All of them have been there for 24 years, or even since the botched Third Republic, right? And then even the Second Republic. Some of them have been there. But up till now, they don't really speak with one voice. They don't really agree. There is no ideology. Absolutely nothing. You can see the carpet crossing. We don't even, is it carpet crossing? I think it's carpet crisscrossing.
Exactly.
Yes, it's crisscrossing because you see this one from PDP to APGA, from APGA to Labour, this one from APC to PDP to NNPP. They just want to remain in power and then nothing more. But we keep accusing Nigerians of not having interest in the selection process because they feel that even if they go out to vote, it will not count. And that is why we always have voter apathy. So honestly, this is the biggest take that people feel cheated. People feel that they don't belong. So why should I even waste my time to go and join queue and then cast my vote, which would not translate into anything. So this is the implication. Politicians should be seen to be matured beings. They should be seen as first setters. They should be seen as forebearers. They should be seen as people who will make sense out of, difficult situation. Yes, but a situation whereby you cannot even resolve your own internal problem. What about now resolving the problem of the people?
Absolutely.
I think they should learn to do the things right. Yes.
We are indeed looking for that day, that time when the Nigerian politician will truly become a pace setter. One other story that seemed to have vibrated across several platforms this morning would do with the delegation from the Senate to the United Kingdom, apparently in search of one of their own, because the country seemed to be about the bourgeois on the one side and the minors on the other. They've dispatched a committee. I'm sure they are going to fly with taxpayers' money to go and rescue one of their own who is embroiled in a organ harvesting dilemma. Do you think this was necessary? Given the context that we have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we have a foreign minister, we have an embassy in London, have we exhausted the options we have before they are raising a delegation from Nigeria, as if to say that it was Nigeria itself that is being held behind bars for this? I mean, despite our sympathies for the former Deputy Senate President, was this necessary?
They are most likely going for tourism. Yes, because if you look at the judicial processes in the United Kingdom, look at how the Boris Johnson passed through many litigations, threat for impeachment and all that, simply because he violated what?
COVID-19 protocol.
So this junketing will only do little. Of course, the diplomatic option is there, but I don't think if the Britons will circumvent the system. Because the laws are clearly stipulated. He is still a suspect, and you can see the case is snowballing. We saw later written by the former Deputy Senate President to the embassy here, saying that the man that will travel to donate the organ, was going there for this purpose. And then even the visa given to him was for health, right? These are some of the options. But I strongly believe that this trip will not change anything. Yes, they will appear in court on 7th, right?
Yes.
Then the case will come up, and then the defense and all that. I think if he is able to prove his case that there was no trafficking, the fellow there isn't a minor and all that, he will be set free based on merit of the case.
Yes.
But if
anything to the contrary,
yes, they actually decorated the surface while inside is rotting, he will not come back.
I think that is where the real issue is. It is not more about the age of the minor, but because I'm sure even from merely their documentations, the Britons would have seen that. I think the argument is about whether or not the person you took is in the full understanding. Did he have a lawyer draft any agreement with you, somebody who is completely aware of the implications of what he was doing before you got him? Or you just basically just throw money at the face of hungry people and the consent? I think that it is in proving that those fine details, like you have mentioned, that his freedom hangs. It's not enough to just take people who are disadvantaged and you throw money at them and they accept.
And you see, the laws there say there should be consent without any inducement. So even if they now said, after you donate, we will enroll you in school. That is an inducement. So,
exactly.
Prison.
Absolutely.
So it's a delicate matter, yes, but we hope that they get it right. But the wider implication again is, if things are fine in Nigeria, will he have traveled to the UK?
We would not have needed to.
You see, so, and these are our leaders who have been there for time immemorial. They can't access healthcare. What about you and me? You see, so, and it's a clarion call to them now, because I don't know the legislators that will go with the kind of eyes they will look at. You know?
And where are they going to start?
Maybe somebody will even ask them, why can't you do the transplant back home?
Exactly.
Now, what will be their answer? So I think we should stop looking at the periphery. We should look at the real issue. Please, let's get our house in order. Let's have our hospitals functioning. Let's get electricity.
That's right.
You know, so that you need not to travel. Because if it were here in Nigeria, we'll just wash our dirty linen. Yeah, nobody will
be the wiser.
Exactly.
Okay, well, so I think with that we will conclude the newspaper analysis for this morning. Hamza Idris, it's always a pleasure having you here, and the analysis is always in depth.
We hope Nigerians will join us in celebrating the rebranding.
Exactly.
We're going to do the elaborate ceremony later.
Exactly. So that's how we'll wrap up the newspaper analysis for this morning, and we'll take a short break right now. When we return, Daybreak continues. Stay with us.
When a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA. To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Once again, good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's 8 a.m., and I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
It is a beautiful Thursday morning right here in the nation's capital. Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
It's been an interesting journey from the 7 o'clock hour, where we have served you quite interesting offering for today, and we would continue on this mark. We hope that you join us in this rather very interesting and refreshing edition. We start with the news headline this morning. 2023 presidency, Fayose dumps Atiku, says power must shift to the south.
Organ harvesting, FG hires lawyers to defend Ekweremadu.
And Abuja Kaduna train victim shot in captivity, says negotiator.
Now let's delve into the details. Former Governor Ayodele Fayose of Ekiti State has demanded a power shift to the south, saying it will be unfair for a northerner to step into office after President Muhammadu Buhari's 8 years. Fayose, an ally of Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State, is among those who contested the presidential ticket of the opposition party, won by former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. After the primaries, the PDP had called on all its stakeholders to close ranks and work towards wresting power from the ruling All Progressives Congress, APC. However, the PDP started experiencing post-primary crisis after Atiku chose Governor Ifeanyi Okowa of Delta State as his running mate. Hours before Fayose's tweet, Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State had said Wike would have been a better running mate to Okowa.
And moving on, the federal government has engaged some lawyers to defend Ike Ekweremadu, former Deputy Senate President, and his wife, Beatrice. Senate President Ahmed Lawal disclosed this after a closed-door session of the chamber on Wednesday, adding that a delegation of the chamber would, on July 1st, visit the Ekweremadus in London. According to law, the visit will be undertaken by the Senate Committee on Foreign Affairs, chaired by Senator Adamu Bilkachua. He disclosed that the Senate would engage the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Nigerian High Commission in London on the matter. They were last week arrested and arraigned at Osbridge Magistrate Court in London over alleged organ harvesting.
Meanwhile, one of the passengers of the Kaduna-bound train that was attacked by terrorists in March has been shot in captivity. According to Tukur Mahmoud, the publisher who has been negotiating with the terrorists, the victim, identified as Muhammad Alamin, is currently in critical condition. Mahmoud, who facilitated the release of 11 of the passengers, confirmed the development to Daily Trust. He said the government must be prepared to take full responsibility if they fail to act on time.
And that is how we wrap up the highlights this morning. And moving on, excitement is in the air for intending pilgrims, especially first-timers from Kaduna State, who are participating in this year's Hajj exercise, with 1,589 pilgrims from the state's 2,491 expected pilgrims already airlifted to Medina in Saudi Arabia. The fourth batch of the pilgrims have expressed satisfaction with the coordination of the Hajj activities in the state amidst their excitement in participating in the exercise.
These intending pilgrims from Kaduna State are part of the fourth batch of the pilgrims to be airlifted from the Kaduna International Airport to Medina in Saudi Arabia for the 2022 Hajj exercise. With this year's lifting of suspension in Hajj activities after 2 years of global lockdown as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, some of the pilgrims, especially first-timers, could not hide their excitement, having waited 2 years to participate in the important spiritual activity.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. It's not by our power, it's not by our grace. Some people are here, they want to witness it, but they could not witness it. Maybe death or one or two things. So we thank God for giving us the life, the ability to witness today. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should accept our prayer. Being the first timer, we pray that if we go, it should not be our last time. In fact, I don't know how I'm going to show you. So the excitement is beyond what I can express.
It is an exciting opportunity for even old-timers who were elated at the chance of returning to the Holy Land after 2 years.
One will feel highly elated, excited, and you will feel on top of the world since the Hajj has been suspended for 2020 and 2021 due to the coronavirus pandemic. Now, by Allah's will, it has been restored. So every single Muslim, whether you are going or not, you will feel excited. Talk more of those of us that have the opportunity of going. Sincerely speaking, I'm highly excited and elated to visit the Holy Land at this very time this year after the suspension of these 2 preceding years.
For a hitch-free Hajj exercise and to ensure all pilgrims perform optimally and in good health, the Kaduna State Medical Team has assured of adequate healthcare delivery for all pilgrims in the Holy Land.
In Saudi too, we know that we are communicating with people over there. They have able people over there, and we go and join them, and all the drugs, basic drugs required by the pilgrims will actually be available, and we're going to treat them as appropriate as we should. And every pilgrim that need any medical care, either in the clinic or in his hostel, there are measures established to give that individual optimal care that he could get anywhere around the world.
Lami Sadiq for Trust TV News, Kaduna.
Meanwhile, hundreds of intending pilgrims in Kano are protesting the non-allocation of Hajj slots despite making full payments for the pilgrimage. Kano State Pilgrims Welfare Board confirms that the board is still waiting for allocation of Hajj seats from the National Hajj Commission. Correspondent Idris Jibrin reports that the protesters expressed shock over the non-allocation of Hajj seats despite making full payments. The report.
These are 280 intending pilgrims under the Hajj savings schemes, which they paid their money to Jaiz Bank in Kano. But few days to go, there seems to be no future for them, and the explanation seems unsatisfactory. According to these people, Jaiz Bank has debited their account, which they sent to both National Hajj Commission and Kano State Pilgrims Welfare Board. But the board is giving them no assurance of going to the Holy Land. You see, Kano Pilgrim Board has collected all our traveling documents, but now they are telling us that there is no allocation of seats. That is why we came to Jaiz to seek for answers, because we were debited since last week. They took 401,000 naira to Kano Pilgrims Welfare Board and 2,050,000 naira to National Hajj Commission, but yet they are still telling us that there is no seat allocation to us. Meanwhile, the Kano State Pilgrims Welfare Board says so far there is no allocation from National Hajj Commission in the name of those pilgrims of the Hajj saving schemes from Jaiz Bank, but the board is hoping to get some anytime soon.
The issue na Hajj savings scheme ya taso, na je hukumar kula da aikin Hajji da Umara akalla.
When the issue of Hajj savings scheme came up, I visited the National Hajj Commission more than 10 times to explain the lack of seat allocation for Kano, hoping that it will improve. Myself and the governor himself were promised repeatedly by the commission, yet there are no allocation coming to us. So these people, we are only hoping that this allocation will come so that we will include them. But honestly, it's getting late. As intending pilgrims all over the country begins to arrive to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, these people can only hope for change, which is highly unlikely at the moment. Idris Jibrin, Trust TV News, Kano.
Welcome back, and to help us understand the controversy better, we have joining us virtually from Kaduna, the chairman, Independent Hajj Reporters, Ibrahim Mohammed, and our Northwest correspondent, Idris Jibril, also joining us from Kano. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can you hear me, please?
Yes, I can hear you.
Good morning. Can you help us make sense of all the difficulties that we have heard with regards to getting Hajj seats for some intended pilgrims where money have been debited and no allocation has been made with barely less than 9 days to go?
Thank you very much. First of all, let me thank Daily Trust Crew for inviting me to the privilege of giving the information to the public. First, at the background, we have to understand that the agitation by the pilgrims to get enrolled in the list of those that will travel this year is primarily because of the suspension of Hajj 2 years consecutively due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And when the Hajj eventually came, the seat allocation of Hajj slots worldwide was reduced by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. For example, in 2019, about 2.8 million Muslims worldwide performed Hajj. And in 2022, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia slashed the allocation to 1 million pilgrims from all over the world, which means 850,000 pilgrims from foreign countries, then 250,000 from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Out of this allocation, 43,032 was allocated to Nigeria, sent to the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria for redistribution to state pilgrims welfare boards. And some of the states actually get the highest among them is Kaduna, 2,440 something pilgrims. So comparatively, some of these states also have been registering pilgrims since 2019, 2020, 2021, and of course 2022. Some of them have registered far and above the initial status quo allocation they do have in 2019. For example, in 2019, Kaduna have about 4,300 something allocation. So that means they get like 50% of their initial allocation. That is factor number one. Now, the second factor is this. There is a criteria, unlike before that Saudi Arabia said from 12 years up to as much as 70, 80 years, you can perform Hajj. They have slashed the maximum age to 65 years. That is another factor that has edged out certain categories of pilgrims to be eligible for perform Hajj this year. Thirdly, some state pilgrims welfare board also, after allocating the Hajj seat to them, we also have to go back home and use a same criteria to redistribute the seat to local government. And another factors I think actually contributed is the NAHACOM policy of 60 to 40 distribution of Hajj savings schemes to the state. For example, that policy entails pilgrims who actually pay through Hajj savings scheme will take 60%, while pilgrims paid with state Muslim Pilgrim Welfare Board will take 40%. So generally, that are the factors that led to some of the tests and anxiety on the part of Nigerian pilgrims. So it's a serious issue, it's a complex issue, and I can also say it's a global issue, it's not just to Nigeria.
Okay, Mr. Mohammed, just before we bring in a correspondent from Kano, I would like a bit of clarity. You have pointed out a number of reasons why this has happened, but we also understand that some of these notifications may have been given well ahead of time, like the total number of intending pilgrims may have been given well ahead of time. The new criteria, which then bars people above 65 from participating, may have been given well ahead of preparations. Why was it difficult for the Nigerian system, and in this case, I'm talking about the National Pilgrim Welfare Board or the State Pilgrim Boards and all of the stakeholders, why was it difficult to have acted on some of this known information well ahead of time to avoid the situation where some persons are only getting to know that they may not make it only a few days to the time, haven't made several arrangements and taking money from them only as early as a couple of weeks ago?
Well, Aki, thank you. You are right. And because the information that there will be Hajj this year made known at the middle of Ramadan last year, and the allocation to Nigeria actually came earlier, immediately after 2 weeks or 3 weeks after the announcement. As you rightly pointed out, can categorically say that the causative factors are some lack of adequate planning on the part of some of the Hajj managers, maybe within the State Pilgrim Welfare Board and possibly at the national level. And why did I say this? For example, if allocation is given to a state, I don't want to mention a particular state, of 3,000 pilgrims, and the criteria adopted to select these pilgrims, and that criteria is strictly based on first come, first serve, simply means those who registered first and met the criteria of above less than 65 years age and actually have the capacity to balance up the high fee as at before the deadline should pick first, then to be followed by those who pay in 2020, then to be followed by those who pay in 2019. Once you adhere strictly with this criteria, that means you go to 2019 record and pick those who make the criteria. You know your allocation. And I say, if you're able to sort out 400 2019 and get 200 pilgrims from T20 registration and get maybe 1,000 from T21, all you need to do is to file your record based on first order and make an announcement and possibly put the list of those who actually make this criteria publicly, maybe possibly advertise them in the media that these are the people that make criteria, can come forward for travel documentation. Those who cannot make it also give the reason therein also. If that has been done earlier than now, agitation could have been less. And as we said in one of our press statements, up to even while I'm still in this program, my handset is beeping. People still calling, people still complaining that someone will tell you it is when they were actually getting to be evacuated that they got to know that they will not travel. It is an anomaly on the part of some, not all. There are some states that have performed creditably well. Anomaly on the part of State Welfare Board, not to inform the pilgrim as at when due, so that some of them can find the alternative. I can tell you, some of them are even ready to go through private operator if opportunity exists to go and perform high. So that is the factor that actually give us a lot of sand, and a lot of element and education also need to be as soon as possible on the part of pilgrims that could not make it. Some are genuine and some are not actually genuine, because we have a report of raw replacement of pilgrims. And what I use by term raw replacement is to simply pick pilgrims who has met the criteria and have even, maybe some of them, their document for visa and replace it with another pilgrim. Sometimes maybe I'm collecting some certain amount of money. So put it in our press statement. So these are the issues that actually give us a source of concern.
All right, so we'll now cross over to Kano, where we will speak to our correspondent, Idris Jibril, who is standing by. Idris, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning.
All right, so we saw your report concerning the protest that was that was held by the pilgrims that were facing some sort of challenges for the Hajj savings scheme, and what's the situation now? Have any moves been made, or have we gotten any new information regarding that?
Well, first of all, Ibrahim, we need to understand that there is anxiety amongst people. There are about 284, and as far as development is concerned, apart from what the Kano State Pilgrims Welfare Board told them, I was made to understand yesterday that two of them have traveled together in Abuja on the evening of NACON, that they are going to collect about around 180 allocation seats for some of the intending pilgrims that were not part of this process. But up till this moment, we are yet to hear any positive result from the people who traveled to Abuja. By now, it is safer to assume that these people have not got it, they have gone to get. But generally, when I interacted with these people, they told me that their concern is that this information should have been made earlier to them, not when it's too late that authorities will start telling that the National Hajj has not given them any allocation relating to the people who paid their money, the Hajj savings scheme in Jaiz. So generally, for now, I can tell you that there is no development. I haven't had any demand as far as this thing is concerned, and we are here from the people or from the Pilgrims Welfare Board, even though the Pilgrims Welfare Board has already told them to, because even the Pilgrims Board is actually expecting actions from the National Hajj Commission. So there is nothing the State Pilgrim Fair Board could do apart from what National Hajj Commission is to them. So as of now, I tell you that there is no any development so far.
Okay, Ibrahim, one more explanation. We also understand that with the case of some people, in fact, air tickets have actually been bought ahead of the allocation, and they have already missed their flight as we speak, and so that is complicating what is already a difficult situation on the ground. Do you have such cases in Kano where some are holding air tickets to a flight that has already taken off whilst they are still waiting for allocation? And if there are, what kind of explanations have been offered to those kind of persons? Because we also hear that to get some of those tickets revalidated for a travel, each of them will have to cough out another 200,000 naira or more. Do we have these cases in Kano?
That could be true, and actually I can tell you, we may likely have such kind of cases here in Kano, even though it's complicated and it's difficult to understand unless the authority does something about it or the affected persons. But apart from the 284 people I told you, those ones that paid their money as Hajj savings scheme, I met some women here just days ago who were also complaining on an issue related to what you are saying. Because this woman told me that they have paid their money, have given them all the necessary training, they have given them all the necessary logistics, including uniforms and bags. But later, 2 days for them to leave the country, the State Pilgrims Welfare Board called them and asked them to return all the equipment that they gave them, that their flight is not scheduled for that next day. But after they returned all those equipment, they told them that, okay, tomorrow, that's as of 3 days ago, tomorrow your flight will take off. So after that day, the flight didn't, and they didn't call them back. So these people came, Pilgrims Welfare Board here behind me, hoping that they are expecting that their colleagues must have gone without them, because they were told that they are supposed to leave yesterday. That's as of day before yesterday. They were supposed to leave day before yesterday. Instead, the Pilgrims Welfare Board did not call them. No one is telling them anything. So I think even here in Kano, it's not only those ones on saving schemes that are facing problems. Definitely other people who are facing related problem like the one you just mentioned.
All right, so let's go back to Ibrahim Muhammad, the guest. I want to throw this question to you now. Who is actually going to be held responsible? Because somebody has to be held responsible. Who is actually claiming responsibility for this debacle? Because I call it a debacle because it doesn't seem like anything was planned according to the way it's supposed to be. Who's actually going to be held responsible for this?
Well, I can say when you talk of have someone held responsible, well, you have to understand the nature Hajj operation. Hajj operation is performed in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is not performed in Nigeria, number one. The policies to be followed in this Hajj emanated from the 8th Hajj regulatory body in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, known as Saudi Ministry of Hajj and Umrah. Whatever policy they have said, then all the 165 Hajj participating countries has to follow. In that particular end, The Saudi Ministry of Hajj and Umrah also have a little challenges as far as here is concerned. For example, they recently launched what we call Mutawif application, pilgrims from UK, America, Australia. What happens? Some of those people have already registered through their private operators. The new system is now giving them difficulty able to register online to come Hajj. I just saw a statement from Saudi Ministry of Hajj today that they are going to grant waiver to those pilgrims from that area so that they can come and perform Hajj. So you can now be actually tie the blame to a particular institution or particular organ. It will be relatively fair, but be it may, in Nigeria, we know the Hajj regulatory body in Nigeria is the National Hajj of Nigeria. It is their responsibility to regulate and supervise and bring out policies towards Hajj addiction. And we actually think that before some of these problems arise, they might have some sorts of mock activities to foresee the likely challenges and actually have a plan B to solve some of the problem. But they are actually trying. I am in the system. I know what is being done daily. It's a complex challenge that cannot tie to a particular organization. Even Saudi actually admitted yesterday in judgment that the portal they launched is a problem. So they are going to see how they are going to grant waiver for those countries that cannot register through the new portal. But down here we have a peculiarity. And that peculiarity emanates the usual Nigerian factor where frigate approach, people doesn't plan well, this source of, I know that favoritism. So this is our own peculiar challenges within India that I'm very, very worried about.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me get your take finally before we let you go, Mr. Ibrahim. What my colleague Ibrahim was also saying, incidentally, two of you with the same name, is that people clearly, by what is going on, would have lost money. And who bears the brunt for these losses? My final question is, every year we come back to this same cycle and start talking about the Nigerian factor, the Nigerian problem. Isn't there something that we can do, to make this operation seamless, so that if you can't make it, right on time that you can, and then you can go ahead with private operation. Is there nothing else we can do other than wait for this cycle to repeat itself year after year?
Yeah, your last question.
Less than 30 seconds, please.
Okay, thank you. The last question, I think we have to take a cue from other countries that have what we 5 years Hajj rolling plan. That 5 years Hajj rolling plan, it means those who want to perform Hajj in 5 years time will have to start making pay and making plan by now. You see, the 5 years emanated because every pilgrim to pay within 1 year Hajj calendar. That takes us back to the issue of Hajj savings scheme. It is well structured and well planned, well implemented, and conform with appropriate law. That particular scheme can only solve 80% to 90% of some of the challenges we are currently facing.
Thank you very much. We go over to you, Idris in Kano.
Idris, I would like to ask you finally before we let you go, is there any hope in sight? Is there any end in sight to this debacle? Is there any chance that all of these stranded pilgrims now, or maybe let's say the bulk of them, might be able to make this pilgrimage this year? Is there any hope?
Actually, Ibrahim, of now, as of a day before yesterday that we gathered here in this place, there is no any hope for these people. Everybody believes, I've spoken with some people, everybody believes that Kano government only had about 2,500 and something allocations, and all allocations have been given out, which means these 284 people have no single allocation, unless like they said, they travel to Abuja to collect about 180 allocation. If they get that 180 allocation, it means 180 of them will be going. But if they didn't get it, there is no hope for any of the people going to Hajj this year, actually.
Thank you very much, Idris. We have been joined to throw more light on this issue by the chairman, Independent Hajj Reporters, from Kaduna, Mr. Ibrahim Mohammed, and our Northeast correspondent, Idris Jibril, who also joins us from Kano. Thank you, gentlemen, for providing illumination to these issues, and we wish you all the best.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you. We will take a short breather at this point. When we return, Daybreak continues. Please stay with us.
As the 2023 elections draw near, remember, evil prospers when good men and women only wish for peace, but never take a step to make peaceful elections happen. Are you a father? Are you a mother? What are you saying to your children as elections approach? Have you warned them not to let themselves be used to cause violence? Have you explained to them what the consequences of electoral violence might be? Do your part to make peaceful elections happen. Talk to your children. Protect them from unscrupulous politicians who want to put them in harm's way, while their own children are comfortable at home, within and outside the country. Let's join hands to make 2023 elections peaceful. This message is from the National Orientation Agency, NOAA.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, right now we'll jump straight into politics. President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday in Abuja pleaded with aggrieved senators of the All Progressive Congress to ensure the party's majority control in the Senate is not threatened. Now, the president calls comes on the heels of reports that no fewer than 22 APC senators have concluded plans to defect to the People's Democratic Party, Labour Party, New Nigeria People's Party and others over grievances arising from the just concluded party primaries. Now, what does this threat mean for the ruling party? And right now we have with us in the studio to discuss that a member of the All Progressive Congress, Aliyu Audu, and he will give us some insight as to how the party intends to navigate this murky waters. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
All right. So the reports flying around is that 22 senators have made up their minds that they want to leave. And so how does the party intend to stop this from happening?
All right. I think basically the concern is over the internal democratic process, the primaries, where they failed to secure a return ticket to the hallowed chambers. Well, I mean, for our group, the APC Rebirth, just like we complained during the congresses, what we've always, argued for is for the internal democratic processes to be fair, transparent, and credible. So that, while people will be aggrieved at the end of the day about not being able to fulfill their aspiration of returning to the National Assembly, to the Senate, if the processes are done rightly, I'm sure they will, you would expect that they accept the result and keep faith with the party. But as it is, it's not just the party to blame. It's not just the party. We are all to blame. Members of the party, especially the National Assembly, including the 22 senators. You are very aware about the whole electoral laws, how they had to go back and forth until we got to a point where only elected delegates could vote in the primaries. If the right thing had been done, maybe plenty of these issues would have been avoided. So, while I understand that they should be aggrieved and wanting to leave, and as a party leader, of course, President Muhammadu Buhari wouldn't want them to leave. You don't want to lose your majority in the Senate, especially heading into a transitional election like the 2023s. It's equally important for the senators themselves, to understand that they are equally responsible for this.
We just talked about the question of internal democracy not being what it's supposed to be, and that's why these guys are actually aggrieved. So, what are you saying? What you're saying right now is, are they not justified for feeling aggrieved?
I don't think they are.
Okay.
I have reasons to be worried about the way the party primaries were conducted by senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria who are like top tier. At the top tier of the leadership of the party, you would expect that they would be at the forefront of calling for transparency long before now. You shouldn't only cry just because the outcome isn't in your favor. I'm saying, like, if the process had been the same and they got their ticket, would they be angry? We can't keep wanting to have a society that works for us. It doesn't work. Because at some point, whoever is in charge of manipulating the system is probably going to do it to work for him or someone else other than you. That is why we need to keep striving. That is what the APC Rebirth movement have always been about. Fairness, equity, justice. Because this is the only thing that can promote peace within the party and even the country at large. This is one of such results. I understand that the president wouldn't want them to leave. I don't want them to leave. No member of the party would want to lose another member, especially heading into election. But at some point, we have to all take responsibility for our actions or inaction in this case.
Just before I go into my major question, just to follow up to what Ibrahim has said, from the look of things, does it appear it is already late in the day?
How do you mean?
Are they going to leave anyways?
They are not. You heard the Ojuzo Kalu, the whip, after the meeting, addressed the press and said the president has assured them that the leadership of the party is going to look into it. The national chairman, Senator Abdullahi Adamu, said the same thing, that they're going to look at their grievances. The good thing is we are a progressive party. It's where everybody is allowed to express their view and their grievance. I'm sure the right people will step up to see how they can address the party. But there are many reasons why they wouldn't want to leave. Why I wouldn't want them to leave, for instance. We don't want to lose them, but they don't want to lose the party too.
Interesting. The question that would come from that would be the talk about doing the right thing, entrenching internal democracy. And I say this with all sincerity, not necessarily as a keen watcher of what happens with the Democratic Party, but as a Nigerian, because the anger is not just with those who are members of the party, it's also with Nigerians who feel that there seems to be a system that basically entrusts on us whatever it likes, whether we would like it or not. What can we do differently, to begin to see people emerge within the ranks that have some popular standing also with the voters ultimately?
First thing first, we need to take part. We need to participate, right? I mean, it's come to a point where, like you rightly said, it isn't just about people whose political interests are threatened. It's about the life of the average Nigerian. You know, I mean, if among the governing team, like the ruling class, if they can't get it right with themselves, who says they'll get it right with the ordinary people? You know, which is why as many as us, the many progressive-minded young Nigerians who desire a prosperous, united nation that works for everyone, you know, we have come to realize that Nigerians have excelled in every field of human endeavors, except leadership. While we will appreciate the fact that, I mean, it's 23 years of continuous democracy, it's a plus. You know, we've been at this for 23 years and we have seen improvement. It doesn't have to take as long as 260 years to be where the American democracy is right now, because we are not reinventing the wheel. So what it basically means is we need people to get involved, especially the professionals, the enlightened, those who are truly passionate about service to nation and to mankind. And it doesn't come without a price. You know, I mean, you need to labor for it, you need to make sacrifices. If we understand that that is, you know, those are the things we need to do. You can't wish good leadership into existence.
You know, you talked about laboring for it, not wishing for it. Don't you think that the way things are right now, it basically is skewed against you and I? Because when we see the party, we don't see these faces. We see people who had always been there in the last 23 years. How else do you force that transition to happen? You know, when, for instance, even the cost of participating is just beyond you. If a party wakes up and sets a party ticket at 45 million, 100 million, does it look like a system that is willing to allow people to emerge? How else do you change that kind of narrative?
All right, like what the APC rebate movement started to do was what we call the internal re-engineering. You know, I mean, a lot of progressive, young-minded politicians in the APC. We saw this early enough after the dissolution of the Adam Oshomole-led NWC and the first extension gotten by the Mai Mala Buni. We felt it was wrong. You know, we felt the only way to ensure that there is peace, there is fairness, is when we go by our own rules. You know, there's nothing as bad as you have a constitution and you don't abide by it, you don't respect it. Then the next thing is to, you know, do one thing that is very important in our political or national life, organization. You know, for those who seek to get involved, it might look like the system is skewed against us. What life is. But we still, you know, soldier on all the same. So if we look at it that way, we don't look at it like we can't do it. We look at it like, okay, we can. It's going to take from us what it deserves or what it demands, but we must be willing to give it. You know, we can sit and talk about how Asiwaju Bola Ahmed is a household name. You know, how overwhelming his popularity is, how you look left, right, center, and you see people whom he has influenced. He didn't start overnight. He didn't do it overnight. I mean, he's been actively involved in politics for the past 31 years. So what that tells us, basically, is we're going to have to, you know, persevere. We're going to have to build the time. We're going to have to get involved, you know. And for every time something goes wrong, we need to step up and question it. We need to push for it to be made right. I mean, this was what we did when the Congress started in the APC. World Congresses, local government Congress. I was on the appeal committee of the party Congress. After the World and the local government Congress, after sitting in that appeal committee meeting and hearing party members, you know, they had legitimate worries, legitimate concerns about the way the Congresses were done. You know, in all honesty, I couldn't just continue as if things were normal. Internally, we tried to get our attention to it within. There was no response. So we came out. That was why we came out with our first press conference as APC Rebirth. And from then till the National Convention, we literally pushed the Mai Mala Buni-led committee to conduct the National Convention because we are aware of all of their plans. You know, we kept unearthing and exposing those plans, and we kept putting pressure on them. It wasn't, it didn't come at zero cost. It did. Our members were threatened for their appointment in jobs places. I was taken off committee that I was a member of, but it didn't matter. We had a goal, which was to ensure we put our party. And if the National Convention wasn't so successful in the way it went, because I didn't like the fact that anyone would climb the stage and crying and willingly withdraw. You know, you can't be willingly and be crying, withdrawing from a race. That was a problem. And that was why, in the build-up to the presidential primary special convention, we were at it again, and we made it clear that there's not going to be consensus or, imposition via consensus. Let everybody go test their might. And the beauty of our convention, or the sweetness for many of us, is not just because Bola Ahmed Tinubu will, the most deserving and the most prepared and the most competent of them all, won the ticket, but it was the way and manner the primary was conducted. And if the process is right, yes, the moment you pick up a form, not only one form is printed for that position. Then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other people are picking. You already know that you're going to win and 6 others are not going to win, or they are going to win and you are one of these. So at the end, as disappointed as you are with the outcome, if the process is right and you can see that you have actually tested yourself, which is exactly what it is about. It's about try. If you don't succeed, you go back and work and try again. But you need to trust the system, which is why we think, it's like the other aspect of our national life. If we get our processes right, where I don't need to be afraid, I don't need favors, I don't need intimidation. You know that you just need to be prepared enough for the exercise and to be able to come tops when you come head to head with the other contenders. And then it is easy to reconcile such. You saw after the presidential primaries, our standard bearer, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, went around to meet with all the. You haven't heard any of the contestants from the presidential primary threatening to leave. Nobody, because nobody can really fault the process.
But let's go back to the issue of the senators. There are some people from some quarters that actually believe or hold the opinion that these senators are taking these decisions based on purely selfish reasons. Just like you alluded to the fact that if the process was what it is and they had still won, we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the process is what it is and they lost. That is why they are threatening to leave. So some people argue that if these people don't have the interest of the party at heart and they don't have the interest of the nation at heart, they're driven strictly by their own selfish interests, then does the party really need them?
Unfortunately, in politics, the game of numbers. Democracy, is tested at the polls. Polls is about, it's not how many professors you have, it's not how many walis you have, it's not how many men of God you have, it's how many numbers of people you have. That's why the taxi driver, the wheelbarrow pusher, the professor, everybody's got one vote. It's about numerical strength. So every weapon, you rather have the arsenals on your side pointing at the other side than have them on the other side. However, not so effective they are. That's the truth. And I agree that our moral, our moral consciousness is called to question, especially that of, you understand of the 22 senators, not a single one who has a ticket is one of them. Are we saying in the we have 109 senatorial zones. Take 22 away from that, you probably have 87. So are we saying that the 87 other zones where most of the senators are from, the processes were right? It's about that selfish thing. We need to get to a point where as a community, as a society, you speak up for what is wrong, however favored or unfavored you are, so that when it is not, I mean, I agree. It is purely selfish. Because I was listening to one of the senators yesterday on TV, and he said that they were in contact with the governor till late, and they were talking until the governor went the other way. And I'm wondering, like, what were you in contact with the governor for? Were you in contact with all of the institutions responsible for conducting the primary to ensure that the processes are right by everyone, which is your responsibility as a leader? If you were in contact with the governor and suddenly the governor went AWOL on you, and what happened, and why should I not think that I'm hearing that because you are not favored? If you were in contact with the governors and he did your bidding, or every other person did your bidding, and you got the ticket, will you be here? Those are the things we should really, I mean, it's the same problem we have with people, with certain governors who live, you know, and have issues with their successors. Because as a governor, you are shielded from the what's it called, the consequences of your actions or inactions. But the moment you leave that seat, you are faced with it. Then you realize, oh, the new governor is the guy. No, you were the same thing when you were there.
Interesting perspective there from Aliu Audu, a member of the All Progressive Congress. Today, providing more perspectives on the threats by members of the All Progressive Congress in the Senate, threatening to leave on account of losing their slot in the just concluded primaries. He's talked about a number of things and the need, you know, for us as a country, not just as a party, to get our internal democracies right, as a panacea for enthroning a very strong and viral democracy. Thank you very much for making it to the studio this morning, and we hope that when we call on you again, you will find time to share this perspective with us in the studio.
Yeah, sure.
This is where we draw the curtain on today's edition of Daybreak on Trust Television. I hope you found it very enlightening and educating. If you like, we hope to do this again tomorrow. Please stay with us. I am Sunday Michael Ogu.
And I am Ibrahim Yusuf. It was nice having you here. Let's do it all again tomorrow.